welcome to 28 Days and Beyond,
where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I'm Amari.
I'm Charisma. Welcome back.
What's going on?
Welcome back, Amari.
Okay, nice.
I'm sorry, I just felt like I should dance.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
I got nothing.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You feeling all right?
Should I not be? Because you sat forward and
I
like
just
the
want,
hands were like really official.
So this is really where I was going with this. You know, I've always been interested in psychology. See, so that was supposed to be my interrogative.
I minored in psychology.
Oh, did you really?
I did.
All right. Well, let's do a little psychological something. Right?
All right.
It's called word association.
Okay.
All right. You ready? First thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Trees.
Green.
Car.
Fast.
Airplane.
Miles.
Black Republican.
What? What? Qua?
Black Republican.
I got nothing.
It seems like a contradiction in terms.
I also
some
want
may
to
say.
do word association at some point, just so
okay,
you know.
You just want to put that out there for future episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, but continue.
Some would say that that's a contradiction in terms. How could you be black and be a Republican? Do you hate yourself? Do you not love yourself or your people? Does this sound?
Are you psychic? Because you just said.
I mean, I was trying to be a psychologist, but maybe I should be a psychic. I could work on the tarot cards for real, yo. I mean, obviously, that people are like, yo, a black Republican. Are you kidding me?
Especially because of what's happening.
Because of what's happening
right
now. There's a question that I've always said, because I have no allegiance to anybody but black people, huh? Okay, let's keep that clear. Mm-hmm. No party, huh? Because it's not a joke thing. We're not here to have a good time. We're here to. Sorry, sometimes I get worked up, but. The question becomes, because it's almost like, it's automatically assumed. You see a black person who votes, they are voting Democrat no matter what. What has the Democratic Party done for black people? Dum, dum, dum.
Can somebody cue Jeopardy music?
Exactly. So, in other words, why do we not look at people crazy when they say they're Democrats, but we look at people crazy when they say they're Republicans, when the Democrats have yet to show
you have a very valid point.
All right.
But I will say that the overall, also with word association, when you think about like if I say Republicans was the first thing.
Old white men.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But when you say Democrat, I also say old white men. Okay.
I mean, but that's true. But there's this. No, go ahead.
But if I were to say Democrat, it would be old white men who don't know how to deal with their guilt. See what I'm saying? They're also rich. They're just guilty. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, go ahead. Continue.
That's true. But this idea that the Republican Party is more for people that are wealthy, that the Republican Party, big supporters of the NRA, big supporters of, and then just seeing in this past election.
But the Clintons are very wealthy, aren't they?
They are.
Okay, continue.
Okay. And also in this last election with the Republican Party in particular, we saw that no matter what Donald Trump said, for a lot of Republicans, no matter what he said, how insane what he said, well, that's fine. It was always an excuse, meaning there was no accountability. Not to say that there is always accountability on the Democratic side,
because Obama said a whole bunch of stuff too, and people.
This is very true.
They all their nose was open like this.
But Obama didn't say build a wall.
Right. I mean, yes.
There's like sanity, and then there's
hit the drone. No, I'm sorry, that's too far. Sorry.
No, it's not. These are all valid points.
And they're all valid points that we're going to get into today. We're joined by a real life black Republican.
This is like the black unicorn that Tiffany Haddish was talking about.
And he's in the building.
Oh, snap.
Oh my God. His name is Marcus Bloodworth.
Okay.
And he'll be joining us after the break on 28 Days and Beyond. Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We're joined now by Marcus Bloodworth.
Yes.
What's up?
Hey, what's up? Happy
welcome.
Hey.
It's good to have you. There are some people watching right now with one question on their mind. How the heck did you become a black Republican? What?
Well, I think it's easy to make that assumption. How'd you become a black Republican? It's pretty simple steps for me.
Right.
I started in the military.
Okay.
Spent a career there, and it's really simple. Republicans always gave us raises. And after I got out of the military, being young and just not really going to change affiliation, I started to learn more about what I was aligning myself with, and more specifically, more about what I didn't want to become. And as I looked more into the Republican Party and the Democratic agenda, it just made a lot more sense for me to lean towards where I was at, or Republican. First of all, for the record, did not vote for Trump.
Okay, because you know I was going to ask you,
okay.
right?
I'm putting that out there
Okay,
first.
thank you.
No,
All right.
I wasn't gonna be in your business.
No,
but since you was gonna be in your
I
business.
definitely was going to ask.
But because my philosophy is fiscally Republican,
Gotcha.
socially responsible.
Okay.
So I'd like to know, as a Republican, how these programs that I'm paying for are affecting the people that I'm directly linked to. Not everyone in my family is Republican. In fact, my brother is a Democratic organizer. He's going to be watching.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Fun.
And I'm pretty sure most of the stuff we talk about today, he blasts me on Thanksgiving or whenever else he can.
Oh, those
about
fun
those
family
things, yeah.
gatherings.
But what specifically would he blast you on?
Well, the first thing he always says to me is like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Good." He's like, "You still a Republican?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Then he hangs up. Then he calls back and he's like, "Just kidding."
Just had to do that.
How's everything?
Just had to do it. Just
Well, that's
keep
what's up. The love is still there.
But yeah, the thing he asked me, he said, first thing is like, it's always negative. Well, what about Trump?
Mhm.
And I say, what about the Democratic agenda that's anti-Trump?
Okay, so you mentioned Democratic agenda.
Wait, I know it's about to get heated
No,
up in
it's
here.
not.
Go ahead.
Besides the lights,
Okay.
but what is it about the Democratic agenda that was so off-putting to you that you
good
said, okay, I'm going to stick with the Republican Party?
That's a really good question. So it all goes back to growing up. My mom was one of the very few women and men who went to the first desegregated schools. So she would come and tell me about stories about how Black people were treated, what the Black agenda was, what we wanted, which is so like, I don't even understand why it's a point of contention. We want to not be killed. We want to get houses when we want to. We want jobs. We want to live in safe places, right? That's all linked to like, the hierarchy of needs that we're asking for. Just the hierarchy of needs.
Basic needs.
Just basic needs, right? And then Zoom, 30 years later, we're still asking for the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, in that 30 years, we've had Republican administrations, we've had Democratic administrations. And some people will say, why not go independent? Independent doesn't have enough firepower to really get those agendas out that we need right now. As soon as it does, and I might flip coin, but at this point, the Democratic Party has done the same thing it has always done, because me and my mother, or me and my father can still talk about the same issues that they were dealing with 30 years later.
Let's let that breathe for a second. I mean, because I'm interested in your brother's perspective as an informed citizen of an opposing perspective. How does he sort of argue against what to me seem to be very solid points? I mean, there is a blind allegiance to the Democratic Party, even though that party has, for decades, if not centuries, demonstrated, at best, a low concern for the well-being of Black people. So when we come back from the break, I want to jump more into that. And I also want to ask you a fundamental question is, do you, forgive my crassness, do you care about Black people?
Yeah.
We'll get back to that one when we come back on 28 Days and Beyond.
Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We just asked like a really intense question and then we had to go to break.
Had to go to break.
So let's circle back.
I wasn't trying to, I mean, obviously, because, there are some people who may say, well, he just, he's probably a sellout. He don't care about Black people. Do you care about Black people?
I think I care about everybody in
All
right? Like, my job depends on all Americans. I've taken an oath for all Americans. But when it comes directly to my people,
got you.
Of course. Like, I didn't come from a background where things were given to me and then it just became natural to be a Republican because my parents were Republican, right? I came from a background where I had to basically like killmonger my way through everything and take what I needed to take.
See what he did there?
Right? You like how I did that? So of course I care about Black people. In fact, so much that when I volunteer for these things, I'm waiting for Black people to come. And what I don't see is Black people there. Now I see African people at my engineering things. I see lots of disenfranchised white people who are coming from those same communities, trying to build themselves. But when I talk directly black to black, I don't want to do that. That doesn't represent me. I want to do something else. So I have to reach even further in. And I'm in between two worlds where, I have the white world that says, you're good enough, you're making the money, you're making the moves, that's cool. But then I have the black world that says you're making too much. And that part doesn't represent us, what you're making that much money doing. So there's a level of fear there that sometimes I have problems getting around. But my community is my everything. My brother, my mother, my sister, my father, my son, they're all part of this community. And this community is much larger than people would like for it to believe. People would like to believe we all come from disenfranchised environments, and we don't. I've met some people who literally would be princes and kings in other places. But here, as soon as they're looked upon, it's, oh, you got to be a Democrat. Oh, you got to, you're the person who you got to like rap music. There's no way that you go to gospel concerts in French. And the idea that we're all just this one form of suffering is really what holds us back. In the Republican Party, not because of its individuality, it allows me to express that way in a financial point of view that says, how can I fund these things? How can I fund the right things to put us in the right place?
Okay, so let me ask you this. Are you pleased with the Republican Party and what's happening in our country?
I don't think anybody is. I don't think anybody's truly pleased, except for people who align with the diehards. The diehards are the ones that are like, our people won. Just like they did when Obama won.
We didn't win.
Because Obama sold hope. And my grandmother always told me that hope is a word with a hole in it, where all dreams and possibilities fall through. Crazy Jamaican lady.
Hey, Grandma.
But that's it. All these things, these hopes, they went right through that hole. And now people are saying they rebelled against it. And now we have our current administration that's challenging for everyone. That's making it hard for people to continue to move forward. So
specifically people of color.
Specifically people of color, specifically women, specifically anyone who's
that's not rich and white and male.
Well, not necessarily male, because obviously Sarah Huckabee is doing fine in the world. But as a anyone whole, who's not in his small team. And you made a comment earlier about those teams, everybody is jumping on a bandwagon, this is our team. And I'm seeing our country jump on their team's wagon, no matter where it carries them. Instead of saying, at the end of the day, we're all driving this journey together.
I was talking to a friend back in 2008, and I was like, yo, these black people losing their mind over Obama. They're not being critical about who is he? What are his beliefs? And she was like, no, you got to look at this like a football game. They just want to be on the winning team. And I really feel like what you just said kind of speaks to that it's not so much about what are the policies, what are the stances on critical issues that do affect our everyday. It's really about nah, yo, I don't like that person. I do rock with it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that what it sounds like I'm hearing from you is you don't rock with Trump.
No.
In the sense of you didn't vote for him, right? Okay.
No.
But you do rock with some of the practical policy stances of the Republican Party that you feel are more aligned with your aspirations or intentions than, say, the Democratic Party.
Right. For me, the Democratic Party is, we're not Republicans. And that's really a good agenda.
Enough.
That's a strong point.
Like enough. I said, you start a new job and somebody says to you, the last guy who was here really, really was horrible. And you're like, I'm not him. You're like, hey, you're not making your deadlines. I'm not
the last guy. So, it could always be worse.
And that's how it feels to me when we talk about for our political sphere about Republicans and Democrats. There is another option there. And that option is, what do we all want? And I think it's very similar. Some people want everything. You can't stop those people. They'll go and want it all. Some people don't want to do anything. You can't stop them. But all of us that are in the middle, to choose a side is ludicrous. To choose a side and stick to it no matter what it's unconscionable.
And it doesn't allow us to see, the full perspective if you're just completely, one-sided. Marcus, thank you so much.
Thank you for this conversation,
for
man.
joining
Thank
us.
you.
This
Thank you guys for
conversation
having
was
me
not
on.
at all what I thought it would be. Pleasantly surprised, sir. But thank you for joining us. Hopefully you'll come back and visit us again.
Yes.
We'll be back with more right after this.
And we're back on 28 Days and Beyond.
Yes, we are.
Charisma.
So now, Amari,
What's up?
word association.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Blue.
Socks.
Children.
Kittens.
Puppies.
Red.
Republican. Black Republican. Still ain't.
Unmoved.
Still nothing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried.
I mean, look, the fact is this. I see, and this is really what I think your last point was sort of heading towards. Yo, any blind allegiance to any party for black people is silly.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to pivot left, right, or send, any way that you need to go if you're going to play that political game.
Yeah.
Because what happens? I always say, has anybody seen Hillary Clinton in any black churches lately?
No,
Has she been
I
talking
have
about
not.
having hot sauce in her bag? No, it's
No.
the same pimping thing that politicians do. They come to the black
They
communities.
kiss babies, they
exactly,
hug,
and
they
then they
take
wash their mouth
pictures.
after, all that, right? And then when election season is over, they're gone. These Democrats don't care about you.
No.
The Republicans also do not care about you. So you, as an informed voter, need to be able to sort of manipulate the situation so that it best benefits you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, there's the idea like, the lesser of two evil, whatever, which to
Yeah,
me is
which-
ridiculous. Lesser of two evil is still evil.
Yes, it is. But what do you propose we do? I mean, because
Revolution.
And what is your idea of revolution?
Off camera.
Okay, you're right. No, but seriously, like that's a question that I keep circling back to. Like, well, what do we do when we're in a situation like we were with this last election, and it was kind of a lesser of two evils scenario, and people didn't know what to do because of what happened to Bernie. People were saying, well, if Bernie had been the person that was on that ticket, we'd be in a much different place, and maybe
If Joe Biden had won, or if he had run,
yeah.
that'd have been. But go ahead.
And maybe if that were the case, Cheeto Hitler wouldn't be in office now. But we never know. But
never know.
again, what do we do? Do you stop voting?
No, well,
Do you vote independent, which a lot of people say is the same thing as voting?
Yeah.
One
of the
way or
things.
the other?
One of the things that Marcus said was, again, he was like, "Listen, I'm not into all that other stuff. It's a financial move." I mean, the other thing he said was that basically Democrats have been very reactionary. They haven't had any definitive stances of their own. They've been responding to the agenda set by the Republicans. It's like, I mean, that doesn't really seem like something you would want to align yourself with, but I can't impose myself onto you or the viewers. But as always, this has been another episode of 28 Days and Beyond.
Where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We will see you next time.